You may have noticed that the hotter it gets, the more reactive we become. And the heat does intensify emotions that may already be of a heating nature. And emotions of a heating nature, at a moment of reactivity, the tendency there is to want to solve the problem now or get very impatient. And so we have, with any type of reactivity, even the cooling ones, and they are there as well. We'll talk about them at another time. But with any moment of reactivity, we have this tremendous opportunity to observe how we react. Surely it's different than other people, and that has a lot to say about our true nature, according to Ayurveda. So it's interesting to bring our curiosity there and say, how do I react? And then recognize that you have this little window of time that sort of becomes timeless, to infuse in there space, enough space that gives you then the chance to respond to that trigger in a way that serves the whole. And so I'd like to offer you a little formula that I have been using for quite some time to maneuver these moments of reactivity. But first, I'd like to actually give you a bit of an experience of it. And so if you would join me on a seated position, whether it's a chair or on the ground, and just take this moment first to acknowledge that beneath you, beneath your feet, beneath your seat, is support. And so you can let gravity do its job to release the weight of the tension, of the contraction, of that reactivity into this loving support, Mother Nature. So give yourself to that as you sit. And then from here, you may recognize that there is also a more subtle type of gravity available, one that is right at the area of the fontanelle, that little place in your head that used to be soft when you were a baby. And allow that gravity to lift you up so that the whole vertical axis has a chance to lengthen a little bit more. And then just be here with the support of this base, with this gentle lift of the spine. And then recognize that the mind is very much curious about what's ahead, the future, what's behind, the past. And the mind has very little interest in being here and now. In fact, the nature of the mind is not to stop moving, so it does not know anything about the here and now. But because the mind moves, we can train it to move with something as subtle as the breath. So here in this beautiful posture, being supported by the earth, being lifted by that more subtle gravity, let's give our attention to the movement of the breath. Simply notice the breath moving in and out of the nose. Perhaps you can allow the breath to move up and down the vertical axis. the breath move down as you exhale, all the way down to the base of the spine. And let the breath move up as you inhale, all the way up to what was at one point a very soft and tender spot at the top of your head. And if there's tension around the eyes, let that soften so you can go deeper into this invitation of moving your breath inwardly as opposed to out into the triggers that the mind provides us to be anywhere but here. So softening the eyes, softening the jaw will invite us to move our attention closer to here and now. Surely you can stay with this for as long as you'd like. But just for the purposes of this video, I invite you to open the eyes again and just notice how that tiny little bit of shifting the movement of the mind from out to in impacted the nervous system. Now, provided you cultivate that as a practice, a daily practice, then the next time the trigger comes, you'll be much more open to taking that little bit of window of time, even if it's for a half a minute, even if it's for just one full breath awareness. In that is infinity. Another little technique that I use often that may require a little bit more, certain inhibition may be there with sound, as certainly was the case for me. But as you begin to practice releasing sound, you notice that when you are chanting, when you are singing, you are not invested in that which contracted you. So again, another beautiful opening of space. So I brought here the Shruti box, and I'm going to invite you to sound that is very simple. Sound is so important to create space because according to Ayurveda, the ethers, space, has a deep relationship with voice, with sound. So the invitation that I offer to you here, especially if you're not yet accustomed to singing, is that, or chanting, is that you simply hum. Inhale naturally through the nose, and on the out breath, there's a little restriction of the throat on the humming. And this vibration that the throat is making is calming the nervous system. So it's having a very appropriate response to the which may have contracted you and kept you from flowing in your ability to, in fact, problem solve and come up with a graceful way out of this challenge, whatever the circumstance may be. So humming is a beautiful, beautiful practice to open space. I do it a lot in nature. I chant a lot in nature. So the little giveaway that I have for you is so simple that all you need to do is look at your hand to remember. And it is that the earth element, with its support, with its weight, with its steadiness, is here for you to simply notice. Let me give that anxiety, that excess movement to Mother Earth. Earth absorbs it and takes it away. So being begins with embodying ourselves. The next one is the water element. And that, although a water element in the body, it's all over the body, right? 70% of this little container is made up of water, as it is earth. But in the body, it's primarily the fluid at the base of the pelvic floor. But I also like to see water as that intention of the heart, our capacity for compassion. So having compassion for ourselves at these critical moments, but practicing them every step along the way. And by just simply acknowledging that the beating of the heart is there for you, the grace of that. Yeah. So being in earth, here in your heart, and then taking action or considering taking action, but not until you are first being in your system and here. And then this action is what? Many ideas may come to mind, but you are to select one action that you will take. And remember that along the way of this one action, from that impulse to act, that driving force to act, from having been here in your heart, for having had a solid foundation, that the space, even if a half a minute, to return to the breath, to return to chanting, is always here along the way. Yeah. So, if you found this useful, would you let me know? I would love to hear from you. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you today. Namaste.